Hello everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Rothfeld, and here's a bunch of stuff for the upcoming trading week. Before we dive into that, how did you do? Did you weather the storm last week? We had the Nvidia earnings after market close on Wednesday, which surprisingly beat on pretty much every single number you could beat on, raised their expectations, and they still sold off. They were down 8% in the after-hour session, finishing only down about 3% the next day. But really, I was surprised to see such a muted reaction to those earnings, even how good they were. Then you move on to Thursday's GDP number. That was better than expected. We went from 2.8% in GDP to 3%. Things are looking good, right? Jerome Powell, listen up, take note of these numbers. And then on Friday, the Big Daddy core PCE price index in line with expectations at 0.2%. Overall, this is really good. Good news for our market, at least from an inflation perspective, from an economic growth perspective. But wait, there's a new enemy in town rearing its ugly head and maybe, just maybe, could be causing some problems for our financial markets. What is that? That's the last piece of information I'll talk about on our Monday Morning Must Knows. Let's start things off with your earnings calendar. Very light week, although a couple of names that I wanted to put on here. We have 315 companies reporting this week. Monday, we start things off with BYD Motors. Now, this week, there's two EV companies on this list. Now, BYD doesn't really have a U.S. presence, neither does NIO, but they are both reporting this week. And I put them on here because there's more and more attention now on these EV companies like Rivian and Lonsdale and Tesla, etc. So I just wanted to make sure we all knew that these announcements were coming out. Therefore, Monday, BYDDY. On Tuesday, you've got nothing. Wednesday, you do have some bigger names. You've got Hewlett-Packard, Dollar Tree, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Remember, Dollar General reported last week and got crushed down 30% on their earnings and forecast going forward. And then on Thursday, maybe an important day for some of you, you've got Broadcom, you've got DocuSign, and there's that other EV company, NIO. Now, let's move straight into economic announcements and international data. We're going to move on to Canada, our neighbors to the north. They have a rate statement coming out this week. That's going to happen Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, so just a little bit into the trading day, which maybe add a little pop of volatility for you. Now, they have been steadily lowering their rates, which maybe this is a keep up with the Joneses thing, and we now need to pay attention to this because they're going to expected to drop rates from 4.5% to 4.25%, so a 25 basis point cut there. And remember, for the U.S., that's our discussion right now is, are we going to lower? Expectations are that we're going to lower by 25 basis points at the September 18th meeting. While this is important to watch on Wednesday at 9:45 a.m., just like the U.S. markets, it's always important. If you're trading Canadian markets or currencies, you want to make sure that you watch that press conference, or at least be aware that it's going on. That's going to happen about 45 minutes after the rate announcement on Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, now I started to set the stage for a new villain in town, that maybe there's something going on that might be the new focus of our elected officials, of the Treasury Department, and of the Federal Reserve, right? It's been inflation pretty much for the last year, fully been inflation. Now maybe a year and a half, 2 years, really, if you think about all the rate cuts they were doing. But now the question is, where do we start to see these rate cuts happen? What's going to drive that information? Now, last week, of course, we had a pretty good GDP number. We also had a pretty good core PCE price index number. So these are good factors, but there's one piece that Jerome Powell brought up at the Jackson Hole Symposium, and something that I've been talking about quite a bit on all my programs and channels, and that is the unemployment numbers coming out. This is kind of a strange one, but it's rearing its ugly head. It's been so low for so long, most of us don't even think about it. And there's actually a lot of different data coming out this week. So I'm going to start at the top of the list here. Wednesday, the JOLTS job openings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. On Thursday, you have the ADP non-farm employment change. That's going to be at 8:15 a.m. Also on Thursday at 8:30 a.m., again, these are before market opens, you have the unemployment claim. So right there, you've got pretty good view of employment data in the U.S. At this point here, ADP non-farm employment change will be the most significant one. But here's where the hammer will drop. Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, that's before the market opens, you have the unemployment rate and non-farm employment change. The unemployment rate, I feel, will be one of the more significant and important factors for the Fed going forward. We'll look at the chart here and you can see that it has been steadily rising. Now, Friday again at 8:30 a.m., the numbers will come out. If that trajectory continues to rise and we see a print above that 4.5 or anywhere in that vicinity, that is bad news for the economy. That would put some pressure on the Fed to lower rates maybe sooner rather than later. So keep your eye on this one. The unemployment rate coming out Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Expectations are right now we're going to come out lower than 4.3. I believe 4.2 is the expectation as of the recording of this. But it is interesting because these markets are always changing. These markets are always evolving. There's always some piece of information or market segment that's more influential and more powerful than any other. We've seen that transition, or are witnessing that transition right now, from inflation and interest rates to now the unemployment rate, and we'll see if that continues. So it will be an exciting week, particularly near the tail end when we get that unemployment rate data. That could be a very, very volatile market on Friday, so be very careful. That, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next week.